Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back once more for our second and final game of the evening. We had ourselves a quick one earlier in South America, with Elements taking yet another win, beating Pumas, but we're over here in North America to finish out the evening. We got ourselves Amplify versus In Control. And, I mean, hey, so far both these teams, not the most success out the gate. Amplify has kind of struggled out the gate, unfortunately, in their journey to make it back into OWCS. But a match against In Control, a team that has very much seen its limits pushed already. I mean, this is a real test and a real opportunity for them to get that first win and some real momentum.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Amplify here, like you said, they dropped down from OWCS, not necessarily getting the start they were truly looking for here. They lost their first game against Tanuki 3-1. They did bounce back a little bit next in their next game against Regen, but they still lost that one 2-3. On the other side, In Control, I mean, this has been something we've been seeing a lot in this region, especially in this tier as well. One quick thing, In Control used to be known as Wizard Cats, now they're In Control, but In Control, they've played 2 series so far, much like every other team in this region has, or this tier has. And they both gone 5 maps here. They lost against Tanuki Tempir in week 1, and they were able to beat Extinction Zero last week, or on Sunday. We watched that Extinction Zero squad last Tuesday. They are a very, very good team. So not necessarily surprised to see this team take them 5 as well here. But Hunter, I was talking to you about this before we went live. With how In Control has played, they're 1 map win away from being 2-0, but they're also 1 map loss away from being in the same spot that Amplify is here tonight.
Yeah, that's what happens when you get into those map 5 situations. It's very much a scenario where everything is out there, and you don't necessarily play the same way in map 1 that you're going to end up playing in map 5. It's a serious kind of developing as things move along, so it's important to kind of get up to an early beginning. That way you potentially don't have to worry about going to a map 4 or even a map 5 in this situation here. So getting things set for Control, we do know the first map is going to be Oasis in this situation, and what I'm curious of course, the bans, because these bans, for the most part, have been pretty competent. They've made a lot of sense so far. It's generally a lot of the same 4 or 5 heroes that we keep frequently seeing getting banned here, so I'm curious if both teams want to take the obvious start here, or maybe they want to go down a bit of a different route to get things started.
I mean, it all depends here. Like we always kind of say when we talk about bans, especially in map 1, it seems like Juno and Kiri is always a little bit of a safe ban. Outside of that, maybe you focus on a DPS hero or a tank. With DPS, maybe you look at something like a Tracer, get rid of them early on here, for at least for one of the sides. Kiriko, though, is going to be our first ban coming in. I believe that is coming in from the side of Amplify. So Wizard Cats, we will know what their ban is here in a little bit. It won't be necessarily right away, as FaceIt system kind of goes really quickly after that second ban comes in here. But yeah, if I am In Control, I'm looking at something like maybe a Has here, something maybe like a Tracer. Those would be the 2 that I would really want to get rid of here first, just to kind of leave it open to a lot of different play styles. Because, hey, like you said, Oasis is our first map of the night, and that's a little bit different than what we've been seeing. We've been seeing a lot of Ilios over Oasis here, but I am pleasantly surprised to see Oasis.
Yeah, honestly, Oasis plays as a very fun map. It's, again, one of those maps in the pool where each point kind of plays a little bit differently, but it doesn't necessarily stop you from playing a particular style. If you wanted to go, all out with a rush style on all 3 points, nothing's going to stop you. If you wanted to dive all 3 points, nothing's realistically going to stop you. But obviously, each point kind of has something that kind of goes towards its way. If you're running on City Center, ideally, you're going to fall towards more of that dive. But once we go, inside to University, the brawl tends to have some favorability. So I'm curious how much teams are going to be willing to swap up between these sub points right here, because I mean, I imagine both these squads going to be fairly flexible right here, but obviously we have seen teams that have their favorite picks that do their darndest to stick with them, and sometimes it works out, sometimes it just doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, both these teams, they have the roster limit here of 7 players on each side. So we could be seeing subs coming in and out through the night. I mean, I already kind of saw one come in here for Amplify. I believe Sky Sniper came in for, I believe it was Sunnygoon. So, I mean, you have these options coming out here early on for both sides. I mean, it's just going to be really fun to see as the series goes on. As we do expect this to be a pleasantly long series, probably going all the way. I feel like if we get anything below 5 maps, I'm kind of looking at it as that's a little bit of a surprise to me. here. Both these teams have been playing well, like we kind of already highlighted. Amplify didn't start off the season well, lost their first 2 games, but 4-map series game 1, 5-map series game 2, looking to try to get their first win of the season here. And Wizard Cats, they've only played 5-map series, so I mean, In Control's only played 5-map series here throughout this entire early part of the season. But talk about flexibility on a map like Oasis, I feel like you kind of have to make those swaps in between rounds, especially if you go from a map like City Center to University. You really can't stick on with the same compositions you are playing. A lot of times, City Center, you will see dive come out because the high ground is so important there, or you'll just see brawl through and through, and then hey, maybe you don't have to make those swaps. So it's gonna be very interesting to see when we head into map here.
Yeah, I am especially interested to see that in the situation right here, because you're going to see a lot of nodes of that flexibility very early on, or if a team is just decided on on one composition that just happens to be flexible enough to work on a lot of different points. We've seen that Hazard coming out more and more as things have kind of progressed along. And to be honest, it's getting a lot of traction as well. And I like it's getting a lot of traction because the Hazard style feels a bit unique in comparison. It plays very differently for something like a Winston. It's not really a traditional dive. I every time I talk about it, I classify it as an assassination comp. It is a comp where if you were in the wrong place at the wrong time, you are going to die if that Hazard spots you, because that 1-2 combo, it's difficult to do anything about it. It's kind of like how things are with Freya right now. If you get caught with the 2 directs and you just blow up, there's not much anyone can really do for you in the immediate term.
Yeah, but as we are waiting now for players to get into the lobby, I mean, we know what our second ban of this first map is. It is Tracer, so I feel like these are relatively, like I kind of said, these are kind of the bans you really expect map 1. They're safe bans for both sides. Both teams really don't want to deal with them. That's why they get rid of them early on. I'm happy that I was actually able to kind of guess that right for once. But, I mean, getting rid of the Tracer, it opens up that backline a little bit more. Yeah, you still have Genji. You still have Sombra there, which we have seen, especially in our South American series a little bit earlier tonight. Genji and Sombra at points really did start to overtake the series. I mean, you can see the exact same thing here. Maybe a little bit less Sombra, though, in my opinion, unless you see maybe a team pull out a wrecking ball here.
It would be funny to see right now. It's come out here and there. It's not bad by any means in the situation right here, but you brought it up with the Sombra. It can definitely be something that just kind of shuts it down. But we have seen balls in the past kind of work past the Sombra and kind of fight against it, because if you have somebody, like a Tracer or even a Freya, whatever it may be, that is able to keep contact with the Sombra isn't able to let those hacks through if they're being damaged. So I'm curious to see what the reaction will be if that ends up being the situation. I imagine it's going to be a little bit more in the realm of normalcy as we're going to get things started in Oasis. And hey, Dex, by the look at things, dive may be on the card to get us started here, because we're going to be starting out over on City Center.
Yeah, and I mean, you talked about Hazard coming out here. This is definitely a map where Hazard can find a lot of value, and it puts you in a good spot to where if University is our next map as well, that you could definitely play Hazard there as well. It looks like Amplify will be on the right and In Control will be on the left for this one here. And I mean, coming out of the gate, Orisa, it looks like it's going to be at least what we're getting teased here for both sides. Key, maybe the Doomfist. That'd be a very, very interesting one, but I'm going to stop talking about the tanks because they are now swapping a lot. Mickman on the Symmetra here, that's just gonna be for a TP out. And other than that, the backline's kind of what you would expect from here. They're kind of already setting up for what is somewhat of a faux dive comp on each side. Key, though, I mean, hovering over this Orisa definitely lets you know that either they're gonna try to take control of the high ground and never give it up, or they just want to play on point. Looks like the Orisa gonna be the go-to here for the side of In Control. Well, Gap, I think on the other side, has preferably a little bit of a better tank here.
Yeah, I think the situation I would kind of fall under that scenario right here, as Winter has decided to start very strong here, already going to be getting rid of Clover, and unfortunately, that's essentially just going to end the fight right there, as Mickman, worth noting, stayed over on the Symmetra after they TP'd the squad out.
That's a very interesting kind of move right there. It really lets you know that they were trying something there, maybe to catch off Amplify to get that round started, but just didn't end up working out for them. Immediately over to the Genji. I like this here, but Key sticking on the Orisa. I mean, it makes the rest of the team a little bit more diveable, and that's what really led to that first fight win for Amplify, which is Gap got that violent leap there onto one Lee there. But Mickman finding Molga out early is huge.
Yeah, it really is right here, but Gap is going to go on the aggression over here, and eventually going to get forced around as a rotation. It's going to come through for the time being. Trying to dive in and find something in the situation right here. Not a whole lot for the moment being, but Sky Sniper going to be able to find Clover once again right here, and it's going to be the same shutdown that we had seen previously. So, hey, it's what you expect for them out the gate here. A team that has looked strong despite 2 losses down, and for the time being, hey, like I said, he's working out well for him.
Yeah, but they do lose Crazy Cat there for a moment. However, the Juno, kind of like a Tracer, can get back pretty quickly here. You already see Winter, though, has this bolo shot ready to go, but you lose Sky Sniper early on, who has been doing so much for Amplify. However, you still see In Control having to just pause here for a moment, but Amplify doing a good job just kind of playing around with the space here. Gap taking a lot of it while they're allowing the rest of their team just get set up in safe spots.
Yeah, 100%. But Winter does have a bolo shot, so there is a response here at the end of the day. Gap also an opportunity to use the downpour. So, opportunities are definitely here right now. Gonna try to solo onto them right there. Winter getting hit, getting super close. Bolo shot comes out on the other side. Unfortunately, it doesn't find anything on either side, so they kind of both go to waste. Gap now considering that downpour, but needs a little bit of carry here. Is Winter gonna win the Freya battle, and Mikman gonna win the Genji battle at the end of the day. So curious how it's going to go down, as unfortunately downpour not gonna find anything, as Zero just going to move in with the rest of the squad off the back of this orbital ray, as unfortunately Crazy Cat and Gap slowly beginning to fall apart, trying to hold on to the 99 and get some of that back up there, but unfortunately I'm thinking this might be an inevitable, Dex.
I mean, they get the 99% though, and that's huge, especially when you're considering that, you know, both supports and the majority of Amplify hasn't really built up to their ultimates yet, even though they've been holding on to the point for so long. Rally though coming out from one lead Clover.
Oh, yeah, and it works out.
Orbital ray.
Blade, I don't know how I feel about the Blade right now. They're kind of just doing a bit of a stagger onto Crazy Cat, so it ends up being a 2-for-1 trade, but that Blade probably ended up being unnecessary.
Yeah, in the grand scheme of things here, unless you do see In Control come back and win this map, or win this point, it kind of is a little bit of a lost cause right there. That Blade was not needed. You look at Amplify here. They have their own Blade, they have their own bolo shot, and they have a rally, which is something that you cannot say on the side of In Control having here. So Amplify's going to come in with ultimates. You are looking probably for Gap to get a nice kind of like chunk out someone, and then you follow up with those ultimates.
Yeah, because that downpour could be deadly, especially with the fact that obviously Clover doesn't have the opportunity to use that rally anymore, so if they still get caught out, it could be deadly, but they're going to escape from the bolo shot. That won't find anything, but still sitting desperately low. As you can see, the terrorists come online. Omolga getting deleted pretty quickly, but the 4v4 still very much activated. A Sky Sniper manages to get rid of one, but needs to get a little bit of care from Crazy Cat, who, remember, is the solo healer right now, and for the time being, it looks like Amplify might be taking a quick retreat.
I mean, right now, that Blade use coming out there from Mikman is looking better and better. They're making swap over here to the Sombra, just trying to get back to point. And I like this late swap from them. If they could just focus in on Gap, it's going to be something that really slows them down here. 99% or 73% and counting for In Control here, as Amplify really has nothing to throw at them here.
Really doesn't, and they're not particularly close on anything either. Meanwhile, Cavalry has this bolo shot ready to go right here, as Mikman kind of gets booted around, but still going to remain invisible. As eventually, someone's going to have to lay onto this point and really try to go for something right now, because we see the one direct. Needed the second right there, as Gap getting desperately low, burning into them right there. The 44 is now activated right now, but obviously have the advantage with the fact that the tank is not going to be there in key. Or more so, Gap is going to have to fight to get back there right now over on the Wrecking Ball. Unfortunately, it might not be enough for the situation right here. Winter hanging around, unfortunately, just kind of stalling out at the end of the day. Gap has made it back into the fight here, but he's got to do a lot to make this happen.
They have both their supports here, though, so if they keep him healed up, it would be huge, but they lose Gap early on. Now this Orbital Ray, Emolga and Crazy Cat gonna have to try to find something here, but I don't think it's going to be enough here.
Yeah, MP comes online, Emolga's down, Crazy Cat likely not going to be too far behind. Winter is coming back with this bolo shot. They're going to see if they can touch one more time. Unfortunately, the bolo shot does not count as a character, so 199 going to be the case at the end of the day right here. So, I mean, again, relatively back and forth, but it's not like what we see with normal control, where it's like, you know, oh, a lost fight here, a lost fight there. It was 99, and then it flipped, and then 99, and then simply flipped back.
Yeah, a great comeback there for In Control. I mean, just like their name, they were very much in control of that entire point once they got control of it. Amplify just kind of looked lost, and it just seemed like, well, looks like someone from the side of In Control has disconnected here for a brief moment. But I mean, I'm just looking at the stats here, and I mean, one thing that was pretty consistent was the fact that even in the fights that they won, Amplify was still losing 1 or 2 people each time. I mean, Sky Sniper died 5 times that first round. They were definitely kind of hindering their team there a little bit, but when they were playing, when they were in fights, they were definitely helping them out. But I really liked there. Like I really did think that the Hazard would be the main difference there for Amplify. And I mean, it came out of the gate on fire, but here's the thing with the Orissas, they build over time, especially with their perks. It gives them a lot more survivability and just good utility as well. And that's something that definitely helped them out there towards the back half of that round, or that first sub point. But I mean, Mickman, 14 kills to death. The Sombra, like we kind of talked about, when they made that late swap over to Sombra, I felt like it did an incredible job on it.
I really think it did as well, and it made it difficult for someone like Gap or Sky Sniper to really do their job, because if you go in too deep and you get hacked, there's nothing you really do. You don't have the Kiriko to go in with the cleanse to kind of keep you alive longer and give you more survivability. You don't get that. So now, we're going to see, once again, the TP's coming. I'm curious if either are going to stay on the Sim this time, have learned the lesson, going to be out on the Sombra and the Genji, respectively.
Yeah, the sim was a strategy for one time, and it didn't work, so they immediately swapped off it here. But I mean, Cavalry was also another player that got progressively better as that round went on the Freya. You did see at the start, Winter was kind of dipping them, but Cavalry really came in clutch towards the end of that first sub point.
Yeah, and Key already kind of getting torn apart, and he used that golden form pretty early, and it's going to be really difficult to take this high ground away from them, so you're going to see a focus on trying to push the point right now, forcing somebody to drop right here. Is Mocha going to drop, going to get hacked, going to get burnt away, and you see the push right there is Gap going to barely manage to stay on right now as in control, managed to take control of the point during that situation right now as Amplify, not a whole lot that can do right here.
Yeah, and we talked about coming into this map with Tracer being banned out. The fact that you could see Sombra come in and start making a huge difference, and Mickman so far has been making that difference here. Gap on Cavalry does allow Amplify here to come in really quickly, but you still have to be wary for where Mickman is.
Yeah, you can see right now, coming up already, Winter about to have this bullet shot ready to go, so not something I would necessarily see coming right now, but it's not going to matter. Can't use an ult while you're dead as, I mean, Mickman on this Sombra has just been doing wonders for the squad. Is continuing to do so right now. As you can see, the supports just trying to keep themselves up for the time being right now. Amplify trying to just configure over onto them. Unfortunately, it's just not working out.
Yeah, this Sombra is really forcing a lot from Amplify here. They're just kind of getting lost in the sauce with it. They're just not in spots. They're not feeling comfortable at all. Mickman finding Crazy Cat out there late with a lot of help from the rest of In Control. But right now, you look at In Control. They're about to have all 5 of their ultimates. Same thing could be said for Amplify, but Amplify, they have to probably invest in ultimate just to get into a fight. They need to have an early advantage. That's one thing they haven't had this point, really. Even though they did find Cavalry out early, there just wasn't really that much of a time where they had that advantage. They need to get something going here, and they need it faster. This map is going to get away from huge EMP.
5-man EMP. Unfortunately, Winter's the only one to go down so far, so if Gap can get this Terra Surge online, this is mega winnable right now, but they're trying to basically go for the solo kill on the Sky Sniper, so that Terra Surge is going to get nothing. That's 3 ults to simply create a 4v4 right here, so they're going to have to simply get back, and honestly, you got your pick of the litter right now, but if you're Amplify, you just need to make sure not to overinvest here. 1, maybe 2 ults to try to take this one away right here as Bolo Shot comes out. Cavalry going to get nothing off of it.
Winter gonna fall before their own blow shot can come out, and now the orbital rays are coming out from each side.
Yeah, right now Crazy Cat with that pull ends up getting rid of 2, and now things back into their favor right here, and it's a must-win situation right here. They might have burned through 4 or 3 ultimates at the end of the day, but it's gotta be worth it because, hey, In Control ended up using absolutely everything for that.
Are we going to see the script be reversed here from what we saw point 1? Remember, Amplify went up 9-0 on that first point, ended up losing it. Now, In Control was up 9-0, and Amplify is in control. Have both of their DPS ultimates here, so that should actually really help them out early on this fight. If Winter's able to land a bolo shot onto someone, say, like Zero, that should easily take them out and really give them the advantage to probably win a team fight without a true engagement happening.
Yeah, the possibility is definitely there in the situation right here, but the bolo shot still has to find effectiveness, because so far we really haven't seen a successful bolo shot to this point right here, as Mickman going to get interrupted for the first time here, ends up having to back out as 40% coming up online right here. Gap getting rid of Mickman as well means you lose getting charged to that EMP, and that means they're essentially just going to just back out because it's not worth risking somebody else dying.
Yeah, and you see right there, because like you said, Mickman dying, forced In Control to back out. That's how important Mickman is to this entire kind of composition that In Control is running. They want the Sombra to be there, causing a lot of trouble, causing a lot of chaos, so the rest of their team can find so much value. Mickman, though, back into the fray here, looking for the hack. The virus will come off, but you see Winter kind of floating in the sky, waiting for that bolo shot.
Yeah, and McMahon almost gets caught out, getting super low right here, trying to survive. Bolo shot gonna be used by Winter here, but Sky Sniper ends up going down. Winter not too far behind, and now, out of nowhere, essentially, it ends up falling apart right here. Key trying to chase people down as they might have to let the point simply flip over and just touch last second.
Yeah, Gap and Crazy Cat are still here. They're going to be able to get a touch here, but it's going to be very difficult for Amplify to really do anything.
Yeah, right here, but does have the spin ready. Unfortunately, not going to make anything happen. Pull back in is Winter. Cavalry is there to help finish it up, but unfortunately, the sweep back the other way, not going to happen. In Control going to take it 2-0 on Oasis to get things started. Clearly, a contestable back and forth between these squads, but, I mean, at the end of the day, In Control just seemed to really find something there, and just, I think despite the fact that they kind of just threw a couple of ults out there, perhaps found more effectiveness and perhaps was more aggressive with them as well.
Yeah, absolutely. But I feel like there's only one true difference between the two compositions. It was who was going to be that kind of flex DPS character. You had the Genji for Amplify and the Sombra there for In Control. And I just thought Mickman had made such a big difference there. You kind of saw the supports were always kind of playing with their backs close to a wall, somewhere where they would easily be able to catch the Sombra out if they were getting hacked. And that just allowed the rest of In Control to really just have so much room and freedom to kind of play, because it forced Amplify into spots where they just didn't feel comfortable a lot. You saw Gap trying to make a lot of space. The bolo shots, that was something that was a kind of a big disappointment there for both sides, and really no one finding a lot of value. I don't think we saw one bolo shot kill that entire first map. So if you're kind of looking at it from each team here, the Freyas aren't necessarily that scary of a character at the moment. Yeah, still a lot of damage that can come out from each side, but the flex DPS have been the ones that you really had to watch out for, and the supports. I think In Control's support line, because they didn't have to deal with the Sombra or Sky Sniper on that Genji, having to really have that opportunity to get into that backline, they just played so much freer. They were so much more relaxed. You could see it throughout the entire gameplay for that first map for In Control as they go up 1-0 in the series.
Yep, and now they have to try to find a response right here, because things change around a little bit in the situation, because where we're going to now, there's no conversation of, oh, you can make this happen, you can do that happen. This is a dive map we're going to, ladies and gentlemen. Watchpoint Gibraltar ends up being the one picked. Don't see it selected all that often right here, but what's more curious is that the first ban is Roadhog, and I mean, this almost certainly has to be a protection ban for the tank category.
Oh, it definitely is. And you know, this is Amplify. I think it is Amplify making the first ban, so they want to play. They want to play one of the dive tanks here, whether it be D.Va, whether it be Winston, Wrecking Ball, Doomfist, or potentially even Hazard here. They're leaving their options open. They didn't want to necessarily ban out maybe something that kind of negates the dive well on that support line, rather just ban out the Hog. You see it a lot on this map. In Control, though, they had the second ban, and it's going to be really interesting to see what you ban out here. I think they might stick on that DPS line. I feel like you did see a little bit of a difference there. Maybe get rid of the Genji. We've already seen that In Control doesn't necessarily want to play the Genji that much. The Sombra seemed to be a big deal for them. So why not just ban out the Genji? That's what you saw Sky Sniper play that entire first map. But no, they're actually be banning out the Ana here. So you're going to be playing a little bit of a different backline here than what you would normally see on a kind of a dive composition here. But it's going to probably be exactly what we saw last map. It's going to be that Brig Juno coming out for both sides. That's going to be my guess.
Honestly, that would make the most sense at the end of the day. I would think so. I think there's a couple of combinations you could make work as well. If you wanted something that was just going to be an all-out kind of dive scenario, I think Curie Lucio is obviously viable as well. Even Kyriana in some situations would generally be viable, but obviously, you know, in this situation right here, not going to have the Yana. So sometimes you put the Brit together, like you said, with the Juno. So curious to see how teams are going to make it work right here as we're getting ready to jump in Gibraltar. And you said it yourself right here, Amplify going to be, I believe, attacking first and foremost to get things going right here. So as you see right now, hazards for both sides currently on board.
Yeah, and you have Sungoon coming in here for Gap. So it kind of tells you maybe Sungoon is a little bit better on dive tanks per se than what Gap was, and I like the sub here early on in the series. It gives you a different kind of lookout. Maybe someone's going to come in here and be a huge difference maker, and you might stick with them the rest of the series, or, you know, they're not. Paintball are also coming in for the other side as well. So some subs coming out here for both sides, and I like that early on in a series, give everyone, you know, some playing time here. Maybe there's a big difference because Paintball are coming into that Freya spot role here right now.
Yeah, so I'm curious to see how it's going to go down the situation right here. The comps really haven't changed all that wildly. I think Clover being, you know, over on Lucio now is the most major change in the situation right here. But it's convenient for the fact that once Sungun goes in for these dives, I mean, Clover's just going to be able to boot them away. Unfortunately, Clover can't stop Migman from just getting deleted in the Tracer 1v1.
Yeah, and remember, Tracer was banned out map 1. Sky Sniper, that might be their go-to kind of hero here. So they have the Tracer back in their control and already finding some value with it early on here. But look at all the space that In Controls has to give up here right now because they lost McMahon early.
Yeah. Is definitely a bit of an issue to get things going right now. Already have moved through that underpass, which a lot of teams opt to kind of give up over a steady period of time right here. But Sungun gets rid of Paintballer as well, but may have risked their own life to do so, and in fact, will end up doing so right here. So it's going to take a lot to take this one away, because when you're down the tank and you're so deep in, it's really hard to make those fight wins happen.
Yeah, and I was going to say, I'm going to wonder how much longer Amplify is really going to stay in this one. I thought they would be backing up, and Sky Sniper maybe just a little bit in too deep. The rest of their team now, they really have to back up and now regroup wholly with Sky Sniper falling there. Sungun is back, so they could kind of keep up this like little neutral fight here, but they should fall back. You do see ultimates coming online here. Neuro are going to have their Kitsune Rush. On the other side, though, Winter, this Bolo shot we've talked about, not necessarily finding a lot of value so far, but this would be a good time for it to start finding some value here, especially if you're Amplify.
Oh, 100% the situation right here. You want to be able to get as much of an ult or much of a time bank as you really can for the second point, because we see teams get held up here by the fact that teams will build up on that spaceship. But unfortunately, Crazy Cat going down isn't really a great way to kind of get that working. So for the time being, you're going to have to back up even further, as once again, Amplify struggling to make a whole lot happen, as ults becoming very plentifully for both squads.
Yeah, and that's not what you want to see happen there if you were Amplify. Losing Crazy Cat and then Sky Sniper right after it, like you said, allows In Control to build up to almost all 5 of their ultimates, while Crazy Cat is kind of lagging behind here in ult charge. They just haven't been able to build up this Kitsune Rush. It's going to really put their team behind here once you start seeing all these ultimates come out. But if Crazy Cat holds it maybe for one more fight after this huge ult fight, it might be an advantage for Amplify, but you lose Sky Sniper first again.
Yeah, and you see right now, Winter gonna finally find something in this situation. So back to a 4v4, but the important scenario is that was Key who went down right here. So now they're in the take advantage here as Kitsune Rush gets activated. You can see how willing they are to try to win in this 4v4 situation right here. Forced into a bit of a desperate situation as well, but they're holding out extremely well as Bolo Shot gonna work good, and just like that, it's back in Control's favor.
And Sky Sniper does invest the Pulse Bomb here, does find the pick, but it's not necessarily going to matter as they fall right here. Emolga, last one left alive here, kind of running for their life, will be able to get back to the safety of their own spawn. But, I mean, if you are Amplify, you still have 2 good ultimates coming up into this fight, but give it up to In Control there. We're very smart with their ult usage there, only use Kitsune Rush in the Bolo. They still have a lot, especially that beat from One Leaf Clover. That's going to be something that really carries them through, whether it be the downpour or the Kitsune Rush from the other side. In Control right now is honestly just solidly in this round.
Yeah, and it's hard to think they might not win this one as well. The beat being there is honestly the ultimate crux right here, because if they get hit with that downpour and they end up getting hit with a lot of members, it's going to come down right now. Crazy Cat going to cleanse themselves away, going to throw it down, going to try to catch onto somebody, but Zero and Clover, a bit of a rough situation right now. Key is in a rough one as well. It's going to need a little bit of care if they want to be able to survive. And unfortunately for Mickman, the Pulse Bomb is going to miss. And now for Amplify, things going further and further in their favor. But both Zero and Key staying alive means a Rate Contestment here is extremely doable, and it's going to happen.
Yeah, but right now you're still finding picks. I don't necessarily see Key or Zero necessarily want to invest or just throw their bodies on there without ultimates. So yeah, they're just gonna give up that first point. But it wasn't overtime, so only 2.5 minutes right there. But right now, if you're Amplify, you have a chance here. You have new life. You have to keep going here. And you have ultimates early on here to really buy you some space and try to find an early team fight win out here as well.
Yeah, 100%. Paintballer sitting extremely low. We'll eventually get some level of care as Winter can't find the killing connection right there, but is going to force Mickman back right here. Does not use the recall, though, importantly enough right here. Is, hey, We were talking about that spaceship control right there, already becoming a very key factor right here. Mickman goes down again in the situation. Crazy Cat, we get more and more. Bolo Shot gonna come in, catches onto a ton of people. Unfortunately, it doesn't get anybody, but eventually Key will be taken down, but it takes 2 ultimates to do it.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Look at where the card is. If Amplify throws one more body on that card, they could potentially get the second point here without another contest. But you do see Mickman and the rest of In Control right there looking for the contest, and there it is.
Yeah, they're going to go in less than 2 meters to get there, though, right now. And Clover is already going down early. There's just the chase down at this point. And while Key is here and Key can hang around and do something right here, they don't have the ults. They don't have the bodies. No one's going to get back from that spawn realistically quick enough to make it happen. Winter going down is something, unfortunately, it's not going to do anything. And now Amplify got some momentum on their side.
Yeah, and this is something you see a lot on this map, where a team struggles on the first point, will barely cap it, and then kind of just roll through point 2 because they have such momentum from getting that first point. And that's exactly what happened there. Those 2 ultimates we talked about really made a big difference for Amplify here. They're not going to have any ultimates ready to go at the start of this engagement. They'll be really soon to another Consumer Rush and a downpour, but you look at In Control, a downpour and a Bolo Shot and Pulse Bomb of their own. That is something that could really win a fight if you find one pick from any of those 3.
Yeah, Consumer Rush going to go in heavy for amplifying the situation. It's going to buy them a ton of space to work with. Downpour coming down. It's going to catch onto at least one Winter. Ends up being the recipient right here. Downpour on the other side of things. Paintballer doesn't manage to escape. Tries to connect onto one. Unfortunately, it's just not enough. And Amplify going to keep moving forward. But they're not going to have any ultimates for this upcoming fight. Besides maybe a Pulse Bomb.
They'll get Pulse Bomb up here, but the Bolo Shot and Pulse Bomb from the other side, again, you're looking to find them not on anyone named Crazy Cat, because they can just use them out. You're trying to get onto Winter. You're trying to get onto a Molka. Someone that will die if they hit them.
Yeah, Pulse Bomb comes out right here. It's going to connect for damage right now, but Sungin is still getting a lot of care overall. Unfortunately, Winter isn't quite getting it in that situation right here. Without Winter, I think, yeah, you're going to start falling back in the situation right here. But unfortunately, I think people are going to start getting picked off one at a time. And Amolga is lucky to be getting out.
Yeah, and I mean, that's just a good stagger not happening right there onto Amolga. But you now look at In Control. They have their Bolo, they have a beat not that far away from another Kitsune Rush, which give it up to 0. They've been able to build those up incredibly quickly so far this series. Amolga, though, is not that far away from an Orbital Ray. Winter not that far away from their own Bolo. And Sky Sniper holding on to a Pulse Bomb here. And Sky Sniper's Pulse Bombs have been pretty good so far this map, especially finding onto someone like Key, who you saw right there last time around when Mickman used it. They threw it on to Sungun, and they got them really low, forcing them back out of a fight, which really led to that last team fight victory there for In Control.
Yeah, but Amolga goes down first in the situation, which means you can't really do anything here. You could take pot shots and maybe find a shot, but, I mean, you can't really aggress. And Sky Sniper dead as well means you gotta back out, settle for what's coming up to be final fight is. Sungin just needs to get out of dodge.
Yeah, and this is going to be final fight. And look at how aggressively In Control's playing here. They have ultimates. I don't blame them for playing a little bit aggressively. If you need to use beat to get out there, that's exactly what they should do here. I mean, play aggressively, force ultimates out from the other side, and then you just have ultimates in response here. I love this playstyle coming out from In Control, but right now, if you're Amplify, you need to find something quickly, especially someone like Key, who is playing aggressively.
Yeah, Paintballer gonna eventually get the side of that beat. Bolo Shot gonna come through both sides. Winter does not have a beat to back them up, though. So unfortunately, things may be falling apart at the seams. Spawns are a little bit closer for them at the end of the day. Crazy Cat staying alive is extremely important as well. Considering Rush is around the corner. Sungin is going to need all the support possible. Downpour going to come down. Unfortunately, they die, and they were the touch, so it just does not happen. So, I mean, 76 meters through second checkpoint. Not bad, all things considered, but you would have loved to finish that map.
Yeah, you would have loved to, but honestly, where In Control held them is a really interesting spot, because they didn't really make that turn. All you have to do is get up to the top of that hill, which, I mean, basically is only one fight you need to win on 0.3 push, and then you should easily be able to get it there. I mean, In Control, that's a good kind of stop there, because remember, they almost held Amplify 0.1, then kind of just got rolled through on 0.2 to a point where you were kind of looking at like, Amplify really figured something out. They're getting back into this. They're constantly winning team fights. They're doing everything right. They're fixing a lot of the mistakes that we saw early on in the start of that round. But then you got the 0.3, and that's something where you see it a lot on this map, where you'll roll through 0.2 and 0.3. All it takes is one fight win for the defensive side, and that momentum that offensive side has is all but gone. But I mean, just great performances all around there for both sides. But right now, just looking at stats, 0. I mean, I talked about how fast they were building up. Kitsune Rushes only died once. Same thing, though, could be said for Emolga. Only died one time on the Juno. Was able to get a decent amount of orbital rays. Emolga's the only one in the lobby right now with over 10k healing, almost to 11k, but 0 not that far behind. In the tank battle, I mean, between Key and Sungun, it's been interesting to watch. Sungun has honestly played a little bit better, getting more eliminations, but he just being able to live a lot of the times was what really put In Control over the edge in a lot of fights. Nice jagged wall coming out there early on from Sungun, just stopping Paintballer and 0, but that's only going to delay him for a brief moment here. But I like that kind of aggressive play style out here early on from Amplify.
Yep, 100%. Vikman is just going to be the body that's going to stay on the cart right here. As you see, Winter more than happy to drop down and cause a little bit of congestion right here, because at the end of the day, you don't want to give that up for free. And in fact, it's coming at quite the price as Mikman being taken down, as Key trying to hold on to a little bit of the hacker. Unfortunately, he's going to forfeit it a little bit and just focus on maybe moving this point forward a little bit, just trying to get somebody off guard in the right area. But for the time being, he's kind of just in a bit of a rough spot.
I actually like what Amplify is doing here, controlling or just contesting the cart before it gets all the way through the valley here. They want to make sure that if they do lose a fight, they can still come back out, but Sky Sniper falling means that cart is going to push through. You're going to see Amplify fall back here. And I mean, you look at Paintball already building up to almost 70% away toward the bolo shot. Huge here early on in 0. I've talked about how fast they've been able to build up to Kitsune Rushes here. Almost 20% difference between them and Crazy Cat at the moment. They're going to have that Kitsune Rush here ready to go early on, and I don't think Amplify is going to be ready for it.
I don't think they will, and they're going to get held back momentarily. Got to destroy that right now. Key going to be diving over on the other side right here as a touch. More than viable to set up, but Sungun sitting super low, is getting dominated from all sides right now, running out of block, and unfortunately, they're not going to recommit to the card. After finding the initial pick as well, they go ahead and win the fight, and at the end of the day, that is a devastating C9. Oh, boy.
Especially since you see it right here, Amplify won this fight, but I think it was more of a thing of In Control just saying, yeah, we could lose this one. It doesn't necessarily matter. We got the point. 5 minutes on the time bank as well, double the amount that Amplify had here. But I mean, the biggest thing right now, if you're Amplify, you just need to hold on this point push as long as you possibly can. You're playing very good at the moment. Sungun was able to make a huge play there, just didn't get the last touch, which really does hurt them here. But you have ultimates. I mean, both sides have ultimates here, Hunter. We're going to see a pretty heavy ult investment, and I would not be surprised if we see the overall ray from out from Emolga here first.
Yeah, I really wouldn't be surprised whatsoever. Winter and Paintballer, though, do have that bolo shot right here. Got a couple of members that are super low with Emolga, especially sitting low, is eventually going to get some care. As you see, Sungun just more than happy to keep aggressive, keep Paintballer at bay right here, but might end up paying the price as they're getting shot into right now. Pulse Bomb, though, is going to miss. And for Amplify, a successful fight, going to be able to bounce back, but still 4 minutes on the clock here. A lot of time for In Control to respond.
But hey, this is exactly what you need to do if you're Amplify. Win a fight like that. And the biggest thing is, you didn't invest in ultimate. You still have all 5. Mikman did invest a pulse bomb in that fight. Didn't really find anything with it. And now, though, same thing. In Control still has 4 good ultimates. So it's going to be a heavy ult fight here. I think each team is kind of waiting for the other to throw out the first blow, and then they're going to respond with ones of their own.
Yeah, we're going to see the downpour come down right here. Orbital Ray, though, going to be activated right here. Neurons firing as ults are getting thrown in there right now. It's been trading back and forth, eventually gonna get taken down, so things becoming a bit desperate right now. It's a 3v4 situation for Amplify, and with Crazy Cat going down, Sky Sniper's the only body remaining. It's gonna be able to stall for a little while longer. Unfortunately, it's just not gonna find anything, as bright side, they do have the 2-to-1 ult advantage going into this important fight.
Yeah, but I mean, that means both teams each invested 3 ultimates into that fight. Right now, Crazy Cat's Kitsune Rush has to do so much here. Sky Sniper, they've been pretty good with the pulse bombs this round, or this map. They need to be able to find one out here early on, and I like how In Control is setting up for this one. Basically, everyone on top of the spaceship while you have Mikman pushing.
Yeah, 100%. So, Sungun is going to have to go onto that car and probably going to have to be the permanent fixture. They have learned their lesson after the first time, more than likely, as Kitsune Rush is going to cause everybody to simply back out of In Control. And they're going to take a moment and just regroup and wait for that to run out.
Yeah, but Mikman is still around. Same thing with Paintballer and One Leaf Clover. They might be looking for another C9 here. One Leaf Clover actually just sitting on top of the top of the ship here. Yeah. But I mean, right now you cannot lose Sungun here if you're Amplify, who is playing up pretty aggressively. But you look at what In Control has here. They have their bolo shot not that far away from another pulse bomb. Well, they're not going to have that pulse bomb this engagement. Wait for the next one.
Yeah, Skycyber uses it as well. Not going to find anything in this situation. So for the time being, hey, can't complain. You're killing more time away. Gets knocked away. Paintballer isn't going to be able to escape. So that's going to kill even more time. And now we're going from that near 5-minute time bank to now only 2 minutes on the clock.
And you needed that right there. You needed a stagger like that on the paintball. Eats away a little bit more time. However, you're still looking at both DPS ultimates here for In Control and only Winter's Bolo shot coming here. Again, Bolo shots have not been that good for either team this map or this entire series. So you're really banking here on a lot for Amplify on Winter hitting a Bolo shot that maybe gets rid of one and damages a lot onto someone else, just so you have yourself a good chance here in a fight.
And that's why you see everybody playing so carefully, because nobody wants to get caught out with this right here. But Paintballer engages in the 1v1 momentarily. Zero, bit of a rough scenario right now. Be forced to back out just a little bit right now. But Pulse Bomb is online. You don't want to be caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. If that catches on to Winter, well, it doesn't need to in the first place, because Paintballer wins the 1v1. And now you might try to give the full go-ahead right here. There's a minute left on that clock right here. You need to take this one away, but Downpour ends up being used right here. Ends up helping get rid of Paintballer, but someone needs to recontest, and Sungyun is going to have to be the one right here as Zero, sitting super low, manages to get away momentarily. Pulse Bomb sticking as well. Everything being thrown into Sungyun. Gonna be thrown down right there. Gonna be trading out. They're winning the fight, and now 45 seconds. I mean, there's a real chance for Amplify here.
There's a huge chance for Amplify here. They played that round. They played that fight almost perfectly. I mean, yeah, Sungun's Downpour, I think, only hit on to Paintballer, but hey, all you need to do is find one advantage. You got the Kitsune shot from the other side, which has been something that In Control has been using a lot throughout this entire map and series to really help them in fights, and they just didn't find anything. You've got rid of Pulse Bomb as well, and their own Downpour. So right now, if you're Amplify, look at the ultimates you have here. You are in great control, but you still have to worry about the beat and the Bolo shot from the other side. You cannot have Paintballer find one with this.
Yeah, that's why you're being very careful right now. We're going to try to find the connections. Paintballer, though, getting super low is going to need a little bit of care right now as Overtime going to be committed. It's going to be thrown down into Amoga, but unfortunately, it's just not going to happen right here. Going to force them bodies down, and Paintballer going to be caught up. Mickman struggling as well, and the beat has already lost its value away. Amplify had a tough task trying to hold here on second point, but at the end of the day, Dex, looks like it's going to work out. Mixman, the last one to go down. That's going to tie up the series 1-1. Amplify holding strong on second point.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, going into that second point push, second point defense for Amplify, they had the opportunity right there to really take control of it because they won that fight almost immediately after they C9 that first point. If they had lost it, it would have been something where you would have seen In Control just kind of push straight through, but good kind of bounce back there from Amplify after giving up that C9 because, like you said, sometimes that's a mental game that some teams and some players just really can't get over, but give it up to Amplify, just being able to get over that, put on a great defensive hold there. And I mean, you really saw, I think the biggest difference there was actually the two tanks. I think Sungun was able to really find a big difference against Key on the other side. They're always finding good picks. You also saw the Freyas still struggle with Bolo shots, but the right clicks coming out from Winter made a huge difference in the paintballer on the other side.
It really did in that situation right there, and that's the kind of impact you can kind of have when you have a second tank on the team, because we brought up the point earlier back when we were talking about South America, is having that one tank that's super flexible is meaningful, but if you have two tanks that are able to do different things, especially in a world of bans where a lot of the times the people are selected after the bans happen. So it's a scenario where even if you target somebody else in the tank, you know, oh, okay, I can't play my best character, you have another person right there that's able to come in and play their own style, and if the team is ready to work around that, I mean, it's an incredibly powerful force. That's why we see some teams that utilize the two-tank combination. You look at, like, Max and Junbin as the one example that comes to mind, where they complement each other so well, and it's really hard to put them both down at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. But speaking of, we know what our next map of the night is going to be. We're going to be heading to Kings Row, and In Control, they do not waste time on what our ban is. Our first ban, well, Hazard is going to be out of the picture this time around, and that leaves a question here. Does Sungun stay in, or does Gap come back in that spot, considering, I mean, Gap does have a little bit more flexibility. We saw it on that first point. Played two different tanks. We've only saw Sungun play the Hazard. They did a really good job on it. I really have to compliment them there. But Amplify, though, what are you going to be banning out here? I think this would actually be a fun map to ban out the Freya. Both sides have been finding a lot of value with it, but I think you might want to try to ban out Freya here and open up Pandora's box in that DPS line, whether you see the Soj, the Cassidy, even maybe a little bit of Ashe come out on this map. I want to see potentially that be the second ban, but I mean, Amplify, they have a lot of options here.
I really think they do in a situation like this, and I think there's a lot of correct choices at the end of the day as well, because now you're talking about going to a fourth map, maybe even a fifth map, so you have to take into consideration what you're going to run there, because you have to consider what other map types you are going to go to after this, because with King's Row, we don't live in the society where it's all brawl all the time. There is a ton no, we are far beyond that point. But the other ban is Lucio, by the looks of it. And this, I mean, if there's one person that was running that character, I mean, it feels like it targets One Leaf Clover. They were the one person who was pretty consistently pulling that out.
Yeah, and One Leaf Clover, they did a pretty good job on the Lucio. That's been something that's definitely helped them out in a lot of situations so far this series, where the beat has been able to counter out, say, a rally, say a downpour, say an orbital ray from the other side. So this is definitely a targeted ban onto One Leaf Clover. I don't necessarily know if One Leaf Clover has been someone that has made a huge difference, but like I just said, the beats have really helped them out. So I don't hate the ban here, especially on this map. Lucio does find a decent amount of value here. But now, coming out of the gate, whew, I would love to see the Winston. I don't actually know. We might end up seeing the Winston here. They are on defense.
Yeah, they're going to come out on this, which I don't hate it at the end of the day. It is definitely a choice, and it could very well fall apart pretty quickly right here. But at the end of the day, having the honor to be able to hit that nade right there, the fact that at the moment, Incontrol's not running a Kiriko, so if you simply hit the nade combo and you have, you know, Sky Sniper and Sungin going at the same time, I mean, it's a simple combination, but at the same time, it can work just that easily. But one thing you have to be careful of, Mickman is peeking out the window, and I hope nobody's going to peek, as Mickman is not even going to bother with it now.
Well, and Moga was there for the moment, but they just chucked the nade. Actually did land on the key, so a nice play there. But I think you're gonna have to just be constantly healing Sungun here. I think key on this Orisa is gonna be such a problem early on, unless Sungun's just focusing solely on that backline. But I mean, I like that Mickman got off the Widow. You knew they were only looking for one shot over to the Tracer instead. That will be a bigger problem here.
Yeah, you see Sungun is gonna get forced out pretty immediately. Recall also getting used pretty quickly right there from Sky Sniper. You're seeing Mickman, considering what trend to go with right now, is going to opt to go to the point, try to make some progression right now. It's just kind of hanging out there for the time being, is eventually Sky Sniper going to engage in the 1v1. But Mickman is just constantly on the move, constantly going after different people. But Winter has kind of taken advantage of this fact of not really being pressured, as they're kind of falling apart. So Amplify taking the opening momentum in the situation right here. Don't lose anybody, and don't give up a tick.
Yeah, and calming my nerves about this dive composition they have on defense here. They were able just to move around the map so easily. They were around the point so easily that it put Incontrol in spots where they just didn't necessarily want to be. They were split up, and it really led to that team fight victory there. Now, a minute off the clock here. Winter already has this bolo shot ready to go. Shooting Star coming back in here for, I believe it was Paintballer. I mean, this bolo shot is going to force out some utility from the other side when Winter does use it, if Winter's able to stay alive, that is.
Yeah, you see Sungun, again, just simply getting forced out in the situation. Key getting desperately low as well, but will be kept up. You have the time to simply regroup, as Sungun, again, going to be thrown out. Bolo shot gets used, unfortunately. Doesn't get a whole lot of utility, as they're simply going to rotate onto the high ground. Unfortunately, Mickman gone means you're down to the 5v4, and they might be able to just chill out until they get back, but I don't know.
I mean, I like how they're playing this. I mean, you did see Key force Immogul off that high ground, but still, you have to deal with now Sungun, Winter, and Sky Sniper just harassing you.
Yeah, and Winter pretty much gets soloed in the backline, so for the time being, Mickman gets the stick as well, so for the first time, really in danger right here is Amplify, but considering Rush is there, Sungun is not massively far away from getting this online, but honestly, not even going to need a Pulse Bomb going to come out. It's going to cause a bit of damage, not going to get a pick though, but at the end of the day, everybody who was anybody left for Incontrol is stuck down in this little cubby right here, but Crazy Cat gone, and zero investing means, I mean, Incontrol think they got this right here.
I think they do as well. I don't think there's really anything that could happen here. Sungun's going to pop the Primal Rage here just to stall out for a little bit and not give up that second tick, which is a good play, but they're eventually going to have to give it up. I think losing Crazy Cat, who had honestly been uncontested up until that point, really did end up hurting them.
Yeah, they're going to go for the investment, though. Unfortunately, it's not going to find anything. Key, considering use the Terror Surge, in fact, is going to simply just end this fight right here and now. And I don't really blame them for using it at the end of the day, just to make sure you secure it. Don't want to leave anything up to chances. They'll move forward as, hey, at the end of the day, ultimates got used on the entire side for Amplify.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're in control at the moment, you have your own bolo shot. As that's going to be something that really helps you out here. Sungun's bubble could really, hinder it here a little bit, but you have to use it at the right time. But you're the only ultimate on the field at the moment. McMahon's not that far away from another pulse bomb, but I like what we are seeing Angel doing here. And it's what you see a lot of teams do here. They just push up, want to build as much space so they don't get held at arches. But at the moment, if Amplify comes in and wins a quick fight, you can easily see them go back and hold at arches.
Yeah, I 100% agree in that situation right here. So, it's a relatively important fight to have to win the situation right here. Bunch of connections. Winter almost gets hit with the second one. A Shooting Star simply going to have to get out of dodge. And Sunken, not necessarily in the place you want to be as a Winston in a little corridor. That's definitely not the scenario you want to put yourself in right here, especially not really having the backup of something like the Nano quite yet, but it is finally online, as they're going to go for the major dive. Unfortunately, that Nano needs to come sooner rather than later, gets separated momentarily, needs it. It just barely doesn't get there in time, which means Amplify is in a very sticky situation.
They're in a very sticky situation, and with Winter falling there, you might be giving up point 2 here. So this entire play they had here completely falling apart, and you're going to give In Control a huge time bank going into point 3. It's not even worth it to contest this point. You're just looking for ways to die fast.
Yeah, and that's a really unfortunate way for point 2 to end. After Amplify had such a good beginning, that time bank is, I mean, way bigger than it honestly has any right to be when you have that good of a start. So, getting to this 3.5 minutes on the clock, ton of ults on both sides, nearly sitting on 5 right now if you're in control. I mean, if they play this right, they could simply just keep rolling through.
Yeah, and I mean, right now, because there are no ultimates used on the second push at all, you're going to see a lot come out, and McMahon with 2.
Oh, that is insane right there. Bullet shot. Doesn't do a ton for Winter, helps get rid of one right here, but needs to find a bit more connections right here. But Sungyun goes down. In fact, Sungyun was the real touch right here, so Sky Sniper is going to be the touch to come out here right now, and they're going to have to get the immediate touch going under. We'll be able to survive for a little bit longer, but Sungyun needs to get out. That is not questionable. That is an absolute must if they want to be able to get out there, hit the recontestment. They're going to go out there. Will eventually be able to live momentarily, but I mean, they're just survive for as long as they can. They're going to get forced around, but they're doing a great job stalling this out. Unfortunately, bodies just aren't going to come back in time.
No, they aren't, and let's just be honest with that round there, Hunter.
Yeah.
Amplify just kind of fumbled it. They really did. That second point push, it was one fight and over. I mean, the team being split up hurt them so much. And while the Winston really worked on the first point, I was going to question how much longer we're going to see it after they gave up that first point. And I think them sticking with it as long as they did really did end up hurting them. But at the end, you just needed someone to get a touch, and the Winston was going to be your best option. But right now, if you are in control, I mean, that was a great round. It started off horribly. It seemed like Amplify might have figured something out, but in control, they turned it up, and Amplify just had no real response for it. Because, like I said, point 2, normally, that point 2 push, normally a lot of times you do see a lot of ultimates come out. We didn't see one. And that put In Control in such a good spot, having 4 very strong ultimates just to kind of push you through. Amplify, even though they had the four ultimates as well, they were all used to try to slow down In Control, and it just never worked out for them.
Yeah, it just never did. It's really tough when you start with that level of momentum and things kind of just fall apart from there, because obviously you go to that second point and you don't even get an opportunity to kind of fight on that final area where we see a lot of teams eventually get held. It does happen there more often than not. So now you got to respond properly, you got to push it all the way, and you got to do it with some time on the clock here. So a lot of pressure to make this happen right here, but first and foremost, you got to get through this first point as fast as you can.
And Amplify sticking with the Winston here. I mean, I don't hate it, especially if you're going to be able to dive on that backline, which is somewhat diveable, but they have a lot of speed. And Moga, though, on the Ana is going to be something that you are always going to see Sungun peeling back for, like they just did right there. It's going to be a problem where you're always going to have one person kind of sticking with Moga, while the rest of the team is going to try to find someone out on the other side of In Control. But In Control, I mean, they're playing very spaced out at the moment, but it's smart spaced out.
Yeah, I really agree in that situation right here. We're going to see that dive up top. Sungun forcing temporarily, but gets knocked to the high ground pretty much instantly right now. Is again, Peel has to come through, but Migman gets caught out this time, and now you can set up. You can start putting pressure onto the point right now. You can force cooldowns out, and as Winter is going to get rid of Zero as well. Now this is really tough right now. You have to regroup if you're in control, and that's what they're going to do. They're going to give up 2 ticks and set up for a re-engagement.
I mean, if you're Amplify, I would be putting some more bodies on the point right now to try to get it up as high as you can, but you're still going to be getting those 2 ticks, like you said, for free here. Key back into the fray, going to be able to come back in and just, you know, stall it out a little bit, but Migman's going to be the first one to touch, allowing Key to come back in.
Yeah, and Sungin can be really good at delivering a little bit of pressure right here, getting some bodies low, but isn't going to full commit right here because you can't really in the situation right here, especially when you don't yet have that Primal Rage. And Sungin walks into the wrong place at the wrong time and is lucky to still be living. Unfortunately, that little misstep is going to eventually cost the fight to go down the drain as Winter going to go with the bolo shot, gets nothing but Sky Sniper there to get rid of Shooting Star means, I mean, Sungin getting back means this is a very winnable fight.
And the Pulse Bomb coming out there from Migman does allow Sky Sniper's Pulse Bomb to maybe find a little bit more value here, especially if you want to try to find, say, Migman or get stuck on the Key, just to chunk them down a little bit here. But you really want to try to find Zero up before they get their own Orbital Ray online, which is, hey, it's online now. And one Leaf Clover, though, not going to be able to have theirs.
Yeah, right there. So it makes that happen. Sungin, again, dies in the situation, but it's still a very 4v4. It can still go either way, and Winter is helping keep things running right now. Expertly so, has kind of survived throughout all the slaughter that has happened right here. Eventually, Sky Sniper going to get rid of Migman right here, which means it's just really about burning away the tank the rest of the way right here. But considering Rush getting activated, going to get traded out pretty quickly as well. And at the end of the day, this isn't going to result in a retouch. They're going to lose point, and now they're going to lose Arches as well.
They might not lose Arches. I mean, you do have Key, who does have the Annihilation, but no. Yeah, now they're going to lose it. And if you're Amplify, you are looking for one more pick and then putting as many people on that cart as you honestly need here. You want to build up some space. That was the one thing that really helped out In Control last round, but it was also the biggest thing that helped out In Control on their second point push was the fact that Amplify just made mistake after mistake here. Amplify now, they need to put up together a couple good fights here because you do have the Annihilation of Bolo and not that far away from Pulse Bomb on the other side. Sungun's Primal Rage is going to be used probably just to build up space and keep this going for them here as they continue to push the cart. Yeah,
making a little bit of progression. It's moving slowly but surely right here, so this is entering kind of a 2-fight territory kind of situation right here if they engage quick enough, but Sunjun, he's going to go pretty aggressive here with the Primal Rage right here, but it seems to be working out. Okay, Key is forced to use the Annihilation in the situation right here. They're eventually going to lose out on it. Winter is found out at the end of the day, so it's a 4v4 situation. It's still very winnable, but with the Annihilation now, that kind of opens the door in a couple of ways.
Yeah, and I think you love that play right there if you're Amplify. Yeah, you would love to have gotten rid of Key, but getting rid of the Annihilation is a little bit more valuable in my opinion. It allows you now to play a little bit more aggressively, but the bolo shot coming out from Shooting Star, it looks like it actually landed on the Sungun, who's going to chunk him down because of it.
Yeah, and that stops any momentum that Amplify had right there. Well, okay, Migman, just wrong place, wrong time, understandable, and at the end of the day, yeah, even Migman's just like, yeah, okay, fair enough.
And that allows, once Sungun comes back here on the ball as well, it allows Amplify here to play a little bit quicker, especially with Sungun on the ball. I like this play. You want to try to cause a little bit more disruption. You want to try to cause a little bit more chaos. That's exactly what the ball is going to be used for here. You want to try to separate someone and then just pile drive them down into the ground.
Yeah, you want that more than anything right here. Double Pulse Bomb is online, though, as Sungun is back over on the Wrecking Ball. You love to see a Pulse Bomb. Gonna miss right here. Sky Sniper gonna try to make some success happen with their own right here, but unfortunately, even though Zero has gone ahead with this Orbital Ray, it's not working out all that good. It's keeping Key alive, which is gonna stall the point long enough for people to hopefully get back and get rid of Crazy Cat. Hey, it's succeeding to its own degree now. It looks like at the end of the day, there might not be enough damage right now from the squad to break past Key, who's kind of like the one fixture still standing.
I mean, Shooting Star is back there. Zero falling is not necessarily the best thing that could happen there if you were in control, and you might be giving up the second point just because of it. You do have options right now, but no, you're going to see In Control invest into it. Nice sleep coming out on the Key. Not going to be enough to really help them in this fight, though.
Yeah, and now it's a question of whether or not that Annihilation can come out on time. Also, Migman has come out over on the Sombra, which is going to make things difficult for Sungun, who's getting closer and closer to getting these mines, which might simply solidify right there. Pulse Bomb comes out, Bolo Shot comes out, everything thrown into Key, but Key is still standing, but eventually is gonna fall over. They threw the entire kitchen sink at it, and it looks like inevitably it should work out.
Yeah, but I mean, right there, even with that second point cap, you're going to guarantee yourself if we do go into overtime that In Control will be attacking second here. Right now, if you Amplify, you just need to keep on going here. I mean, we saw this third point push for In Control go off without a hit and really without any stops as well. Mickman, though, on this Sombra, like you said, is going to cause a lot of more trouble here for Sungun, who immediately gets off the Wrecking Ball, going back over to the Winston instead, and I like this a little bit better than the ball. Sombra still does find some value, but not going to be as much. Shooting Star, though, does have their own bolo shot here, but the support ultimates for Amplify should really help him out here in an early fight.
Really showed the situation right here is Key just kind of hang around the cart, has to get hit with that cleanse. Nano gonna be used, not in the best spot possible. It's gonna force One Leaf Clover into a really tough scenario. Key not far behind, so now a big opportunity online here with Shooting Star gone in 0, and Mickman barely gonna make it out right here. Someone has to retouch right here, and it's probably, it might still be Key actually. There's plenty of time.
It's good. If there's a touch, it's going to be Key. Mickman's going to be there as well, but this hack on the Sky Sniper almost takes care of them there.
Yeah, that was a little difficult right there, but the response is definitely here in place right now. Need to try to get rid of Key, who's super low right here. Gets taken care of, bolo shot thrown in. Not going to get it direct here right now, but it's causing plenty to happen. A nice sleep right at the end of the day. Winter, though, does get taken out, but that's not going to be enough at the end of the day. 3 bodies on, and they're going to finish it out. Oh, my goodness. What?
EMP got canceled there by Winter as well. EMP got canceled by Winter as well. Amplify coming back here in that second round after what was, let's be honest here, Hunter, again, a little bit of a collapse following the 0.1 cap there on the defensive side for Amplify. Really looked a lot better. They looked a little bit more composed. Sungun, we saw a little bit of flexibility from them, which honestly did help them out. I thought the Wrecking Ball was great, but once they went over to that Winston, Mickman on that Sombra did not find the value you were truly looking for. And just to cap it off at the end, the EMP gets taken care of by Winter, or gets canceled out by Winter. Amplify, they give themselves a chance here now. Only a minute on this first point, and I mean, if you remember going back to last round, Amplify, it did take them a little bit. They did start off very, very slow attacking. They need to try to pick it up a little bit with Key coming out on the Orisa and not on the Ramatra. I think it might honestly help them out, but Sungun teasing us with the Orisa as well. So you see both teams getting into a little bit of a different mindset here, something that we really haven't seen from either side yet. Winter, you know what they're doing on the Widow. They're looking for an easy shot. Ooh. I think I know what everyone with all the swaps are coming in for from Amplify here. They're just getting the perks ready as well. Sky Sniper might actually throw out a sonar arrow just to kind of get an idea where everyone is, and I like that play coming out for them. It allows their team to kind of be able to rush through maybe the choke point a little bit easier.
Yeah, just find that shot onto Key. Unfortunately, not going to do anything but give a little bit of hint of alt charge, but with a Freya coming out anyway, shouldn't make the biggest difference in the world. But now, remember, major perks online for every single person to get things started right here, meaning that shield is pretty much there immediately to work around right now if you're our Sungun. Key struggling a little bit to make anything happen right here. Has to use that gold form and try to just survive right here as, hey, lots of pressure still being given onto the point right now. They're simply not going to give away a tick for free.
No, they are not, and that's the last thing you want to do if you are in control. Giving up a ticket free means you give Amplify a winning condition here. But right now, I mean, I like how Amplify's been playing this round. They've been playing it very smart, but right now you're looking at Sky Sniper to just try to get rid of someone in the backline as they fight with Mickman.
Yeah, and we're coming down to that overtime timer right now. You might want to throw everything you have left right now, as One Leaf Clover getting super low is going to be able to survive momentarily right now, but a pick needs to be found because at the end of the day, haven't even managed to find one thing, going to throw themselves into a crowd of people, and it's not going to work out. Down to the 45, and now this is when the all-out aggression is going to start picking it up into high gear. Sky Sniper goes down. All the care being thrown right now into Sungun right now, who needs to live for as long as humanly possible, needs to get the touches over on the point. They're getting pressured around, barely going to make it on at the last moment. Unfortunately, it's not going to happen, and unfortunately for Amplify, not going to get a single tick, so the best they can hope for is a draw.
And hey, maps are drawable, and King's Row might be one of the most drawable maps in the entirety of Overwatch. So it is a possibility. And you remember how good Amplify's defense was that first time around. It took In Control maybe about what their time bank is right here to really get something going on this point. But the biggest thing for Amplify at the moment, you can't lose a team fight. And if you lose someone early on, you want to hope it's one of your DPS characters. If you lose Sungun early, you lose Crazy Cat or Emolga, you're going to put yourself in a very, very dangerous spot where you're going to be playing in that little corner behind behind hotel lobby, where it just becomes very, very difficult because you are basically putting yourself into a shooting gallery essentially. But right now, I mean, the Winston is going to be a make or break kind of pick here, but it worked out decently well uh, the first time around. But ooh, I like what Mickman is potentially doing here, getting the Pharah ready. I don't think Amplify would really expect that. Yeah, you have Winter and Amova on the other side who can kind of give them a lot of problems, but I don't think they would be ready for it, say, the first attack.
Yeah, and it's not like you can really respond to it either. You can't make swaps or anything like that. So, you know, in this situation right here, Key gonna go back to the Orisa last second as McMahon decides it's not worth it. Let's just set up, get this going. But the point you kind of brought up earlier is that if you are this in-control squad, you can just spend the next minute and a half just building up to all your ultimates if you wanted to.
And I mean, that might honestly be what they do here. Shooting Star kind of has their eyes set on Sunggun at the moment, who already has to run away quickly.
Yeah, but already losing out on a couple of members means you're a little cooked right now in control. You're going to try to get your Tracer out of there. Looks like you're going to be able to do so successfully, but Key getting out would be really important as well, but looks like they'll be able to do so. Sky Sniper maybe a little too far in for their own good, but we'll be able to get back, take the reset as Shooting Star now shooting away on the Widow.
And I like this. I mean, especially if Sky Sniper's going to be playing around that choke point. If Shooting Star is going to stay on the Widow for potentially another 15 seconds, they could have been able to find them out here, but it's a reset now for Amplify as in control now, looking to try to find something here early on.
Yeah, it needs to try to find some level of connection. Nothing quite yet at this juncture right now. Minute and a half still on the case right now. Ooh. Zero getting super low, and Sungkyun is just in, the worst position possible right here. You're down the tank. Bodies have to start forming on. Winter, though, has found one, but that means you got to keep Sky Sniper on this point right here, which means if they get hit with that high-powered Javelin, I mean, it's just over like that. But Winter has got the second pick right now, eventually going to get taken out right now. Sungkyun has to give everything to make it back to this point right here. It's literally on the back of Sky Sniper to stay on this point to keep things alive right here, but eventually Sungkyun has made it back, so the chances for Amplify still very much alive.
And Imoga not that far away from a Nano. That would be huge in this fight, especially since Zero on the other side really hasn't been able to build up at all to their own orbital.
Yeah, and it gets thrown out. It's going to catch on to somebody. Crazy Cat is the recipient of it.
Crazy Cat?
I mean, to be fair, that was purely an accident. That's 100% certain right there. But now 40 seconds on the clock. That's through right now. And now, continuing to win the fight. Bolo shot going to be used here. Not going to find anything. Winter getting caught out. And now, I think that's going to be the potential death toll right there.
You need to quickly fall back here if you're Sunggun. You look at what In Control has. They have their Kitsune, they have their own Terror Surge, and their own Bolo. They're in a really good spot here, and Zero will be able to build up to their orbital ray this fight. It's going to be a very, very hard fight here for Amplify.
Yeah, it's going to take literally everything. Sungkyun has to live first and foremost to get this Primal Rage online right now. We'll be able to get it. Has to start forcing bodies, though. Needs to get somebody here momentarily right now. Pull back into the Terror Surge is Sky Sniper. Sungkyun just doesn't have the necessary heals to make it happen right now. They're forced around. Overtime is going to activate, but they go down right now. But Amoga being taken out means Sungkyun just does not have the heals at the end of the day. They've been doing a fantastic job of trying to make this happen now. Everyone's so low, unfortunately. I mean, you lose Sungkyun, and from there, that will do it right now. It was so close to happening for a tie, but unfortunately for Amplify, they're going to be taken down, and now it's a match point for In Control.
Yeah, I mean, In Control, that was just a good map for them overall. And, I mean, it was just solid. They really benefited off of just the mistake that Amplify had that first round, and they never really looked back from it. I mean, Amplify, they did bounce back. Like I mentioned, they did bounce back that first attacking round for them, and they were able to complete the map, and looked very good at the end of it. And I mean, the tick, that would have been so big for Amplify if they were able to get it in overtime. Because remember, they were basically sitting on the line. All they needed to do was just force off one member of In Control, and they would have been able to get that tick, making it possibly something that they would have been able to win. But I mean, like you kind of said, In Control, all they really had to do was just build up ultimates, and that seemed to be what they were just doing there. They had 2.5 minutes. They took a couple fights, forced out ultimates from the side of Amplify. I understand the usage of the Nano very early on there, but I felt like that Nano should have been used as a last fight sort of ultimate. You use it the fight before, it just gives it away for In Control that you had almost everything you needed there to win that fight. That's exactly what happened.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. I realized it was a panic scenario where you needed to live right there, and if you pop the Nano, you know, you have the self-nano as well, you're going to live in that situation right there. Maybe if it caught on to Sungkyun, maybe the situation would have been different. But the most unfortunate situation there, was eventually Winter going for that bolo shot. And unfortunately, they don't find anything. They get caught out at the end of the day, so you just are hopelessly beat out when it comes to pure damage. So now you have a scenario where, for your Amplify, you absolutely have to bounce back here. Its fourth map could be the last one. We do know that we're going to Runasapi, and we do know the first ban as well as Orisa taken out of the lineup. Definitely, I mean, a clear shot at their opposition.
Yeah, easily. I mean, so far throughout this entire series, Kia has been doing great on whatever tank they've been playing, but Orisa really did find a lot of value for them, especially in that overtime round. And a couple times we have seen Orisa already for in control. Just the sustainability and that strong javelin, or the powerful javelin that you get with that major perk, has just been such a big difference for them. It's really building space and just kind of stunning people. That's been a huge difference maker so far for in control. Amplify, though, you get rid of that here. You do allow Hazard to potentially be played here again, and he did have a solid Hazard that we saw back on Watch Point. So it's gonna be really interesting heading into Runasapi, considering the long kind of routes that you have on this push map. Junk Queen is always an option. Something maybe like the Ramatra, even a Malga could come out here. Hell, basically you got rid of the one tank you kind of had to here, in my opinion, for your Amplify. Well, you just left the rest of that tank pool open to a lot of tanks that find a lot of value here on this map.
Yeah, and I think what it might come down to is what Amplify decides to come out with here as well, because obviously we got to figure out what that second ban is here shortly. But Sungun coming back over on the Winston wouldn't necessarily surprise me, but we saw they were shut down earlier by the Ramatra as well, so that option's going to exist. But I think we clearly saw that there was a certain level of comfortability that Key had specifically on the Orisa that was really hard to beat in that situation. So I'm curious what the situation ends up being here, because maybe this is a scenario where maybe you start targeting the backline once again in the situation right here. But the problem is I think they've already targeted it multiple times now, so I'm not sure what they can even realistically do at this point, because to my knowledge, they banned the Ana and they banned the Kiriko at the gate, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
I mean, you could try to get a Juno ban here. I believe Amplify, that was the first ban of the night for them, and in control ban the Tracer back on map 1. You could look at the DPS line here. I mean, that's never a bad look. You could get rid of the Genji potentially, but we've seen that Sky Sniper really does prefer to play the Tracer, which was banned out map 1, like I said, by in control, so you can't make that one. It's actually gonna be the Lucio being banned here. So Lucio being banned in back-to-back maps here. So very, very interesting.
That is extremely interesting. That is not something you see on the regular at all. Usually if something is banned, it's either banned for a really good reason or it's just used to protect. But clearly, the Lucio ban was pretty targeted last time, but in this situation, it's been used. And now, I know why you're laughing, and I'm laughing for the same reason, as we'll cut over and check this out. But Torben time? Is it Torben time?
I have the feel like, unless this is one of their other subs, I have the feeling this is someone on the side of In Control who has streamer mode on, so their name keeps constantly changing. So they might have never brought in a sub this entire map. They just have streamer mode on. And the interesting thing coming into this map here, I thought we could have seen Gap come back in for Amplify, but Sungun's been playing solidly, so I don't hate them staying in here. They teased us with the Malga, and I definitely think that could find a lot of value here. You look at the other side though, Key on the Ramatra, at least at the moment, I like that pick for them here. Ramatra, I mean, unless they get nerfed to hell, is always going to be solidly in the meta no matter what. Outside of that, the support line here, again, without the Lucio, you kind of see the teams kind of going different ways here. It's going to be Kiriko for the side of Amplify, and the Brig now for the side of In Control. It was only going to be the Juno for a moment, but Amogo going over to the Juno here. So I like these compositions for both sides. Really no big differences besides the support lines and the tanks.
Yeah, 100%. Sungun still being over on the Winston is something I love, but it's exactly what I said earlier about the fact that they're just going to go with their Ramatra and try to shut them down the exact same way. So now Sungun is going to be enemy target number 1 every single fight, it feels like, because it's not too difficult to kind of shut them down, so things have to be precise, things have to be timed correctly, because so far, I mean, they're running around while the rest of the squad, unfortunately, is just getting pushed further and further back.
Yeah, and I mean, In Control started off this map by just kind of flipping it and playing it very, very smart. They really did force Emolga into a bad spot. And look, Emolga already swapping off the Juno, going over to the Ana. Instead, you lose Winter out, and if you are Amplify, it's just time to back out of this one. Don't lose anyone else, but you are going to continue to lose more here as you lose Crazy Cat, and this is exactly what In Control, how they want this map to get started off. And you already look at Torben Time and Mickman, 75% and counting on both their ultimates, and Winter getting off of the Freya for the first time, going over to the Soj. Now, I do like this swap coming out from Winter. I feel like Soj does still find a little bit more value in the neutral, but ultimate-wise, we have talked about the Bolos just not finding a lot, and Winter already finding something here on the Soj.
Yeah, I'm starting to think Soj might have been a fine pick. I'm not gonna lie, Dex. I have a keen observation of as to what's going on right now, and having two picks, essentially a third, helping with the fourth. Yeah, I think it's worked well for the time being. They're gonna finish by clearing out One Leaf Clover. That's essentially a 4K for a winner. So hey, definitely a justified swap for now.
Yeah, and I would say this, One Leaf Clover actually almost did take Winter with them there, so a little bit of a big play by Amplify to keep them alive, but now Amplify's basically flipped the tails of this map already. Yeah, we're only 2 minutes in, but look at the ultimates now. About to have 4 ready to go for them. The bolo shot was invested last time by Torben Time. They're going to have Annihilation and Rally at some point throughout this fight, but Zero does not have their own orbital ray built up just yet, but Pulse Bomb, I think, got stuck onto Emolga.
Yeah, that's an unfortunate scenario for them right there, so now with Emolga down right here, Bots are pushing the other way right now. Sky Sniper hanging around. They're going to hit the recall right there. But honestly, might be better of maybe perhaps to have not hit it. Because now they're just hanging around the back line. And, I mean, they have to try to find a pulse here if they want, I mean, any chance of this turning around.
I mean, you can land the pulse on someone here. Just, I mean, you could try to land on the One Leaf Clover. But if they're quick enough, they will be able to get that rally off that will keep them alive here. But Sky Sniper is definitely looking for it.
Yeah, Nano has... Ooh, yeah. Sunken. Nano has been used right now. Rally also has been used right now, but unfortunately, One Leaf Clover in a pretty rough situation right now, as Sky Sniper still holding on to the assault right now and trying to run it down right now, trying to burn away Emolga. It will eventually come to 4 right now, but the bot has been stolen away at the very least. A winner, and Sunken still finding picks means that thing is close to potentially capping right now. Sky Sniper throws out the Pulse Bomb, doesn't find anything right here, but Zero still ends up going down, and Sunken could very easily just invest his Primal Rage just to potentially secure a lead, but it looks like it's not going to be needed as Amplify taking back the lead and potentially close to getting the checkpoint as well.
And talk about a really disjointed fight right there. I mean, half the fight or the majority of the fight was so far away from the bot because Sky Sniper was just stealing it away. They're going to get forward spawns off of this as well. So Sky Sniper making a huge play without really doing a lot. They did invest Pulse Bomb, but didn't find anything there. You look at the other side now. In Control is going to have 4 ultimates here, while really Amplify is only going to have the Primal Rage and Crazy Cat's Kitsune Rush here at some point. So this might be a fight where if you are Amplify, the only thing you're investing is this Primal Rage.
Yeah, but Zero, more than getting to go with the rest of the squad, tried to invest more in this situation, and I don't hate it at the end of the day, but nobody has died quite yet. And as things are, Amplify more than happy to simply back out, take a little bit of a reprieve. Emolga, though, does end up going down as, I mean, this is kind of worst case scenario, the situation right here. They get the bad spawn. You're in a 4v5 that's really awkward looking right now.
But that's been what the majority of these fights have been, just awkward fights already here. Pulse Bomb out there for Mickman. Same thing with a lot of other ultimates out from both sides.
Yeah, Zero ends up going down. Sunken, though, unfortunately does fall as well, so now it's got to be on the back of Sky Sniper right now, who has to probably realize that this is just not the sauce right now. They're going to end up hitting the recall, and unfortunately, their journey might end there as the Pulse Bomb comes out, unfortunately.
And right now, you need to get rid of this Annihilation from Key. You're going to be basically giving In Control the forward spawns here, and you only have an 8-meter lead. So either you're going to contest this cart almost immediately, and that Annihilation is going to come out from Key, or you're going to give him a lead and try to take a fight after that. I think you have to contest here, knowing that Key is holding on to this Annihilation, but you're not even going to do it. You give up the lead.
Yeah, but Winter gets rid of 1 right here, so it might get popped anyway, and nice sleep as well. Going to be opening up the door potentially in this scenario right now, but Winter really does need to find another if they want to try to solidify this away, because they made a few more meters of progress, as well as Sungun. Again, just, it feels like University sitting on low, but Mickman gets taken out from the shot, as it looks like Amplify will be able to stabilize once more. Unfortunately, the damage has kind of already been done, as Key manages to hold on to the Annihilation through all of that.
They've been holding on to this Annihilation for so long now. Amplify knows they have it. They know they have it. Losing Sky Sniper really does hurt there. You need to get rid of One Leaf Clover. That's going to be a huge stagger as they will not get those favorable spawns for them. But honestly, McMahon being back here, they might just try to stall it out as long as they possibly can. Sky Sniper's saying they don't like that perk, so I wonder what perk it is. It might be the Shield Bash one.
Would not surprise you right now as we saw things go back over right now. So I'm gonna get hit with that right now. Does manage to get them out of the sky, so getting rid of the Freya. Definitely impactful right now is Key getting super low. Might be forced to pop the Annihilation here to make it happen. And 100% they're going to right now. So I'm going to ignore all that, go to the back line. Has the Primal Rage ready and is going to try to bully away the Break, who's sitting super low. Will manage to get rid of one. Key in a rough scenario where they have that Nemesis form still to keep them going right here. But unfortunately for Zero, not yet to see the light of day. They're forced back, and now realistically, Amplify should take back the lead.
They should take back the lead, but Torben Time and Zero are actually Torben Time's right there. Mickman's not that far away. They both have their ultimates there. Yeah, the lead is gonna be given up here. Ultimates though for each side is kind of the same. Zero building up to that Orbital Ray right there is going to be the big difference maker in this engagement. But Amplify, last time that Orbital Ray came out, actually did a really good job kiting it. However, they put themselves, they flipped the map, which has been one thing we've been seeing constantly throughout this map already, that the teams just kind of flip sides, allowing In Control to take control of the bot here. But Emolga finding Mickman out is huge. It gives Amplify that momentum they're really looking for here early on in a fight.
Yeah, and now you're wondering how much you're willing to invest here to still try to win this fight. Pulse Bomb thrown out. Nearly gets rid of Sky Sniper themselves right here as they're working up to that 91-meter marker, trying to get it further on right now. But Consider Rush used by Cage Crazy Cat to bring things further forward. Now Mickman also ends up using that. The Bolo Shot ends up being used as well, but just hasn't really found anything. So both teams are investing ultimates, but if you're Amplify, you're fine with this at the end of the day because you are holding and you're inching further and further forward.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we want to do here. Winter, again, swapping over to the Soj has been the best thing they've done all series long. Finding Mickman out, forcing or popping up the overclock, and look at all the space it builds them.
Yeah, and it gets rid of Torben, and now things are becoming a little bit rough if you're an In Control fan right now. Key can be forced to back out, trying to work up closer and closer to Annihilation as Mickman hits the recall while at full health. So at the end of the day, I mean, that lead is just expanding further and further as the Nano is invested. Not finding a ton right now, but, I mean, In Control are trying to find anything, grasping at straws.
And Key put the sleep right there. The Annihilation is, and they're gonna pop it! They're gonna pop it! I think that's a huge mistake by Key! Amplify now completely back into this series here. I think they're gonna be able to complete it with time. There's no ultimates on the other side.
Yeah, and this is becoming, I mean, this is bad. This is straight up a bad situation right now. Minute 20 on the clock. It would take a minor miracle to make it happen. Mickman has already gone down. And unfortunately, yeah, I think it's all falling apart. It seems Key is back over on the Mauga, but I think this is going to be this is just a temporary reprieve right here, as that'll be the last kill necessary to make it happen right now. 2 meter, 1 meter, no meter. They're going to finish the map with a minute or so on the clock, and Amplify going to take us over to a map 5 as we elegantly predicted at the beginning.
And talk about a bad way to go out there if you're Key. You get put to sleep, you get Pulse Bomb, you get antied, and then just to for the final nail in the coffin, it was the Tracer shooting you in the head. I mean, you got basically bullied there at the end, but Amplify, this was the map you were truly looking for from them. They put everything together and looked very, very solidly throughout it. I mean, at points, it seemed like I really did think that In Control really was going to be able to win a couple team fights going there. I think the biggest problem, though, that we truly saw there was Key holding on that Annihilation set for just too long. And the couple times we actually saw Key use Annihilation, they were already basically dead. It just, it seemed like they weren't using them in the best of times, and it really hurt In Control there. But at the same time, one person we did talk about was Winter going over to the Soj. I thought that made the biggest difference there. And Hunter, we know what our final map is. I hope you like push, because we're going back to another push map.
Oh boy. You know, I gotta be honest here in this situation. If I'm a squad that just got beat on push, full capped on push, I don't know if I would go to another push map. Now, granted, the Orisa wasn't in play, so there is that to take into consideration, but we also saw Winter really pick it up. I think the most they really have picked it up throughout the series so far in the situation right here. So now I'm curious what the ban is going to be, because I don't believe you've had any Soj bans from either side. And honestly, it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest if they took that avenue, because Winter has been manageable for the most part over on that Freya. So maybe you want to shut it down, but no, they are going to target Sungyun in this situation and get rid of the Winston.
And no, I was gonna say, like, you're talking about the Soj play there from Winter, but I think the whole thing that kind of put the piece that really put it all together there for Amplify was Sungun on that Winston. They were just able to do so much, whether it be with the nanos, whether it be with the Kitsune rushes. They were just able to do a lot on the Winston, and it did cause In Control to have a lot of problems. You can deal with the Soj, like you said. I think they couldn't, and I don't think they could really deal with the Winston. I mean, you saw them struggle with it on King's Row up until Amplify just started having mistakes on it. That was the only time where the Winston really did look bad, was when Amplify was making mistake after mistake after mistake. The Winston looked great there on Runasapi. You want to get rid of it here on Coliseum, mostly because the high grounds, those bridges right before you get to those control or those checkpoints, Winston does have a little bit of a field day with them being able to dive up, fall down, dive up, fall down. It just finds so much value here. But Amplify, what do they ban? Because Freya is still on the table here. And I mean, yeah, you could immediately see the Soj on the other side, but do you go for the Freya? Do you go for a support here? It's going to be really interesting to see what it is when we do see it.
I'm very curious as well. This could be a scenario. The thought came up
coming back in.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, to be fair, I don't think you have much of a choice in that situation right there. That's kind of the main go-to for Sungyun. So, Gap coming back in is going to create a very interesting scenario because Gap, I believe, hasn't been in since that very first map now.
Yep.
So, and unfortunately, that map didn't go the best of the world. It definitely had its close points, but it didn't end particularly close. So, at this point, the ban honestly kind of eludes me a little bit right here because you could go into the tank category if you felt like you wanted to ban out the Ramatra, which...
You can't ban tank.
Oh, yeah, you're right. You're right. You're completely correct. Look at me. Look at you. Smarty pants over here. But I don't know. It's tough. It's tough at this point. This is why you got to be very careful with your bans when you're in a Map 5 scenario where perhaps some of your best choices... maybe you've already expended them.
Yeah, and that's been something that I think Amplify has done a good job on throughout this entire series. Yeah, each team has had the chance to, pick bans twice first here. But our final ban of the series going to be Freya. Like I said, I thought that was the right way to go. We really haven't seen, I believe it's Benevolence, who's going to be named Slipstream this map.
Yeah.
We haven't seen them play anything else. So the Soj might be something that kind of catches them off guard here. You might also see a Cass. Ashe does find a lot of value here. And even if you want to play Widowmaker just for the long sightline of this first kind of fight you're going to have here for the bot, is something you could easily see. But it's going to be interesting to see once we see what they come out with here once they're able to load in. But outside of that, Gap coming back in here, they mostly played Orisa and Hazard when we saw them back on map 1. That's going to kind of be what I feel like we're going to see them gravitate towards here on this map again.
Well, it's all going to be decided right here, ladies and gentlemen. Map 5, Coliseum, going to be closing us out as Gap. Currently going to be sitting over the Orisa indeed right now. Obviously, a little bit of showmanship from the Pharah and the Doomfist. I don't really particularly expect either of them, but honestly, Mickman being over on the Pharah would be particularly funny, and it would be difficult to deal with that first for Amplify. So maybe it stays, maybe it doesn't, but at the moment, Dex. No, it's gonna stay.
I don't hate it. I don't hate it. I mean, you're gonna be putting a lot of pressure on someone like Winter that have to shut them down, and you don't have the Ana on the other side either, so they're gonna have a pretty easy time. But now they fire those rockets. Everyone on Amplify knows that they have this Pharah here ready to go, so they're gonna have to play a little bit safer and not get caught out here. Especially Sky Sniper, who has been playing great on this Tracer throughout the night here when we've seen him play Tracer, but they cannot get caught out and get too rocketed by Mickman.
Yeah, it would be devastating if that were to happen during the fight right now, because it can happen in the blink of an eye right now, as that bot has unlocked right now, so this first fight will be important, but Slipstream, Benevolent's going to get rid of Winter right out the gate right now, as Gap and the rest of this Amplify squad simply going to back out, take their step backwards, realizing it's going to be hard to win the fight without Winter there.
Yeah, and there's a part of me that, losing Gap does hurt right there. There's a part of me that might think that, given one more fight here, you might see Amplify make a couple more swaps just to try to get rid of Mickman here, because we saw that Mickman was teasing potentially the far back on King's Row in overtime, but we never saw it. Now that we see it here, you're putting a lot more pressure onto Winter, onto Crazy Cat, and on a little bit to Sky Sniper as well to try to get them out of the sky, because they're already being a problem here early on.
Yeah, very much already an issue, and they're already sitting at 47 meters and counting right now this early into it. This would be a devastating scenario if they were to go back-to-back fight wins and get the checkpoint. It's going to be a tough battle to come back for if you're Amplify, but it's very winnable still in the situation right here. Still every bit of second on that clock needed, but you just don't want to fall so far behind so quickly.
No, you really don't. Sky Sniper, though, is building up to this pulse bomb, and that could be an opener you're looking for here if you're Amplify, but you cannot lose anyone here. Mickman still just kind of flying around in that backline, which is where you want them to be, but Slipstream, we question whether or not they could pick up the Soj. Yeah, Hunter, they could pick up the Soj.
Yeah, now you see the all-out aggression pushing them back further and further right here, and now without them, I mean, they might just be simply giving up the checkpoint right here. They could be considering it, but I think they honestly have to give it up.
They're going to have to give it up, and Mickman kind of expecting Sky Sniper to come out of that, come out of the stairwell there behind point 1 here, but point 1 capped here. You do have ultimates coming online for both sides, but Amplify does have theirs first. If they want to play a little bit aggressively, they could try to catch In Control off guard here, but Sky Sniper in a little bit of a predicament.
Yeah, it does get a little bit of care at the end of the day right now. Gonna go in, try to find something with the Terror Surge. Get just bullied around and pushed back. Gap just not able to do anything they want right now. Are potentially thinking about pulling. Gonna throw in a ton of bodies right now. Mickman pretty much getting deleted on the spot right now. But you see the response immediately right here. They're trying to do the exact same thing back in the 4v4 right now. But Slipstream still has the ultimate online, trying to find potentially something right here. As in the 4v4, the spawns are going to be a little bit closer for Amplify to get their 5th member back. Winter, though, needs to start responding here pretty shortly right now, descending into bodies right now as Amolga goes down right now, and Key is going to get with body shot after body shot. It hasn't been enough quite yet. It finally will. I think Amplify, realistically, after that, should be able to start responding back.
Yeah, and once they get rid of Slipstream here, okay, that was close. I thought if they lost Sky Sniper, that would have been painful. But everyone on In Control will be able to get these forward spawns, but you look at the time bank here, almost 4 minutes gone. If you're Amplify, you want to reset these spawns, but I just don't think you're going to be able to. In Control should be able to get back, and all you have is a rally here. Slipstream has their own overclock, which is something you're really going to have to watch out for. Actually, it will be a really good ultimate to use to kind of counter out the rally coming out from Imoga here, just to try to get rid of them early on. I think that's what they're going to be waiting for here.
Yeah, it really would be right now. Moga, make sure to play very safe. Moga has been caught out quite a few times within this series right now over on the on-up of that brig. Better chance of protecting themselves as Winter finally going to get the better of them in the situation. Amplify looking to come away with this fight right here. Going to be able to chase down, get rid of Mickman. Winter coming back online as Key doing the correct thing as a tank and simply running to the point and dying and just trying to cause as much stall as possible.
Back and forth and back and forth. We're in a map 5 for a reason here. And Amplify responding greatly there. Slipstream did not even have the chance to use their own overclock, and now look at Amplify. They're about to have 3 really good ultimates. Sky Sniper's Pulse Bomb needs to be able to find something this time, because we've seen in the past, 1 pick is all you really need for Amplify to really force In Control back, and 1 pick, and if you win a team fight off of that, you will get these forward spawns no matter what.
Yeah, that is essentially what will happen right here. Now 50 meters and counting right now. This is an extremely important fight right here to make happen as Slipstream gets taken care of again. Winter coming back up online. Not happy about how the first sequence of events went right here as Rubsonar right here as you're going to have to try to hide away, or if you're Mickman right now, it just doesn't happen right here. And now again, Key subjecting themselves to dying on the point as the checkpoint going to come through. The question is, with the stoppage right there, will they have enough time to regroup and respond before it caps over?
I think you're going to have to give up the lead here if you are In Control, but give it up to Amplify. I talked about it being about, 3.5 minutes into this time bank, and they were down a lot. Well, a minute later, they're almost in the lead. Orbital Ray coming out here early from Crazy Cat. I love it.
I love it as well, and Gap going to try to find something right here. It's going to be used on the other side of things right now. Gap in a bit of a weird scenario. They're going to go all out with that Terror Surge, and Gap is not in the right place and not at the right time right here, but does manage to help get rid of another Crazy Cat. Needs to be able to keep them up, though. At the end of the day, they're clearing house. The melee to finish. Amplify will take back the lead, and now, I mean, what a comeback from how things started out.
And one thing that was really fun to watch in that fight, I don't know if you were spectating it, but Winter was uncontested on that high ground while everyone else was on that low ground. They had a shooting gallery, and no one stopped them. Winter was a difference maker in that engagement. SkySaber, though, has another pulse bomb here ready to go, and you can see they're looking for someone early out, but Zero, they have their own orbital ray. That could be something that you do see In Control use here to try to get this bot back in control, because I mean, you look at where it is now, one more team fight loss here, and you could be staring down the barrel of just trying to get stagger touches.
Yeah, because see, they're kind of just trying to sit on this bot, letting it kind of push back further and further. You get a bit of a weird trade out here, all things considered right now, but Winter being alive is definitely extremely important to have in the scenario right here. But you kind of see, they have been continuously taking this bot further and further away right here, but it's kind of just splitting it up. This is not going to result in a fight win, and Key has essentially resulted in pushing back the thing, but at the end of the day, this isn't going to accomplish a whole lot.
But again, Winter is alive and kicking. They started off slow on the Soj, but man, have they come alive. And I don't think In Control has anything they can really do to stop them. They took care of 2 people that round, that last fight, and it was huge. Gap finding Slipstream out early. That's exactly what you wanted. Exactly what you want there if you're Amplify. Look at the ultimates they have. They're coming up to 4. The only thing that In Control has is 3, and they need to find value with them early.
Yeah, you could be looking at panic mode right here. Gonna throw in that orbital array right now. Key getting super low right now. Might be forced to eventually use this right now. Gonna pull bodies in for the Terror Surge right here. Nobody going down though. Key gonna have a response coming up here momentarily as Winter finally gets taken the better of in this scenario right here. And Gap is just gonna full commit onto here. No more ults going to be invested. They're simply gonna take as much time as they possibly can, get as many picks as they can, and everybody should realistically get the good spawn no matter what. 20-player kill streak to end it out.
SkySaber still alive and kicking in that backline. They're going to try to stall out as long as they can, but Slipstream not going to allow them to right there. And like you said, everyone for Amplify should be able to get these forward spawns. Actually, last 3 getting the same spawn wave right there, which is huge, but give it up to In Control as well. Being smart there, not investing ultimates into that fight after they basically won it as well. So it's going to be 3v3 going into this next engagement. Orbital Ray, though, I think might be the difference maker here for Amplify. That should really help him out. SkySniper's Pulse Bomb, though, like I said, it's been something that was really strong at the start of the series, but as it's gone on, SkySniper hasn't been able to find the sticks. 1 stick here, and, I mean, it might be what they need.
It might just be right now. Key still having that Terror Surge online as well. Gonna be pulling in a couple of bodies. The stun comes through, but it doesn't actually get rid of anybody because the Orbital Array manages to keep them going right there. But Amoga still ends up going down. A SkySniper and Gap, bit of a rough situation right now. And if we're talking about rough situations, Crazy Cat might be the one at the top of that conversation, eventually taken care of right here. And while the trades are kind of going back and forth, it's still gonna be a big struggle for Gap to survive through this, and they indeed will not.
And here's the thing right now. You look at that time bank. You do not want to give the forward spawns back over to In Control, but you're going to have to. You really are. However, you could play that into your hands here if you are Amplify. You win this next fight, you could just try to hold on to the bot as long as you can, but, I mean, you know they're going to want to try to reset the spawns here. No ultimates, though, for Amplify here coming up, other than Gap's Terror Surge. You look at the side of In Control, they have their own Orbital Ray and a Pulse Bomb from Mickman. That can be something that really opens up this fight, and potentially, I mean, if it finds value, gives In Control a lead here with less than a minute to go.
And whoever's in the lead here after this fight is going to be at such an amazing advantage overall, as Mickman is forced to kind of back up here, not having the recall. SkySniper refusing to use theirs, but unfortunately might be forced to. Pulse Bomb going to come out right now, and SkySniper ends up getting the better of them here. And we're seeing the investment of the Terror Surge as well from Gap right now as Zero. Again, keeping everybody alive as all they need to do is survive and take the regroup. You can let's push forward just a little bit further.
Gap getting caught out. That's not what you want right there if you're Amplify. Winter's overclock. It needs to be the difference maker here for them.
Yeah, and it's just kind of a threat at this point. They kind of just have to hang back. There's nothing they can. They're not gonna find a pick with this right now. So Gap and SkySniper need to get back in Deck 6-6 fight. It is literally everything on the line.
That yellow line of victory is right there. Someone from Amplify needs a touch. They do at the right moment, but do they have enough here?
I don't know whether or not that gold is going to be able to take a lot of that chunky damage right there. Crazy Cat needs to be able to live, though. Gap has to stay alive throughout all this right there. They're throwing literally everything. Gap, though, has eventually been taken care of. Amplify throwing everything into kitchen sink. Crazy Cat's going to get the ultimate online, but it's just them. They're pushed back, and somehow In Control brings it back. Takes the win, puts Amplify down to 0-3 is In Control. Winning one hell of a match.
Yeah, an incredible match here by them. And like we said at the start of this series, In Control was one map win away from being 2-0, another one map win away from being 3-0, but a great series here for them. And Amplify on the other side, we came into this one talking about how they have been getting progressively better throughout their first two games.
Wow.
This one, though, I mean, it kind of does sting, I feel like, if you're them. You played well. You played incredible that final map as well, but you gave up a lot. You really did that final push. It stings that this Amplify team is now 0-3, but I mean, you can only look up and forward if you are Amplify here, but In Control, whew, this is a team. I mean, I believe I've heard of a couple of these players, but they really did put on an excellent performance here tonight, and they move up to 2-1, which is, at this point, put to yourself, it's probably one of the better teams in this tier.
I mean, you have to consider that being 2-1, and again, you brought up the point earlier that they were one map away from now, at this point, being 3-0. And the fact that now In Control has gone to map 5 in all 3 of their games so far, what it really shows is that this team is able to keep giving their very all up until the very end, because if we were talking a minute and a half left in that game, Amplify were so heavily favored. They were one fight away from simply closing it out with time remaining, just like they had done, back over in the previous map of Runasapi. Unfortunately, it just doesn't happen. People get caught out at the wrong place at the wrong time, and they don't really get the chance to properly have a final fight even.
Yeah, I mean, right now, just looking at the standings for everyone actually plays their third game, Midori is the only team that's currently 3-0. There are a lot of teams that are 2-1, and only a couple teams that are. Actually, no, there's a couple other teams that are. No, never mind. There's only one team that's 3-0. Regen is the only one that's could potentially be 3-0 left here. But there's a lot of teams, a lot of good teams as well, that are 1-2. So 1-2, and only 2 teams now, Amplify and Iliad Helios. They're the only 2 teams that have yet to find a win yet this season so far. But those Amplify and Iliad Helios, we know those are 2 solid teams. They just have not had the breaks go their way. And again, Amplify, you have to kind of look forward here. You played excellently this game in this series, but In Control, man, were they exactly what their name was there in the maps they won. Really in control, and they had an incredible comeback there in map 5. I really thought Amplify had done it there. I thought they had done everything they needed to do, but in my opinion, I really think it was the main difference of how good in general the Sojourns were. I mean, give it up as well there to the Sojourns for both sides. Just the Soj for In Control at the end was the big difference maker, finding pick after pick that they really needed.
Yeah, it really felt that way, because it never felt like one player was ever like squarely in control of their position throughout the entire series. Everything really kind of went back and forth, and as it went further, you saw someone like Winter Headrammer. I'm not playing with you right now. You see somebody like Winter who got progressively better as the series kind of went along. And that's what you see in these series like these, where these players and maybe don't start the strongest, but they keep building and building as things go along. And Winter had themselves a lot of phenomenal moments, and Gap coming back in, doing what they could to kind of have that redemption from that first map. And I think to an extent they got it. Again, it's just a really unfortunate way for that situation to end right now. One of the big ult trades just didn't really go in their favor. But I feel like they did a lot of things correct. I feel like this is still a situation where this is still a team that is very strong, that can still do a lot of things. Unfortunately, all that needs to be converted into wins sooner rather than later, because not every team is going to go into the playoffs right now. And the playoffs don't care if you went to map 5 7 times. As long as you lost all 7 times, the playoffs don't care about that.
Yeah, and there's a lot of teams right now that I think have really only played Map 5 series. We've seen that a lot in this Masters here for NA. But, I mean, right now, give it up to In Control. They've played 15 maps and have done a really good job throughout all of them here. 2-1, especially against the teams that they have played, Tanuki, Tempier, and Extinction Zero. We casted Extinction Zero last week. We know how good of a team that is, and the win against them is very, very good. In Control's next game, though, will be against Boop Troop on Thursday. And for Amplify, they're looking to bounce back and get their first win. They'll be going up against Tanuki, Tempier on Thursday as well.
Yeah, obviously hoping for the bounce back for that squad, and hoping, obviously, for In Control to kind of keep the momentum that they have gotten, winning a lot of these map 5s, showing that they essentially have that dog in them to be able to go to the very bitter end and keep that fight going, because you look how Runasapi ended, you wouldn't have expected them to have such a big fight back, but hey, they had it. they made it happen at the end of the day. But either way, I mean, ladies and gentlemen, again, I appreciate English. I appreciate y'all coming out here today. I want to quickly shout out Joker for that raid earlier on. Like, oh my god, you absolute king. I appreciate it a lot. I know your game ended a bit sooner than you would have wished, but I mean, it's just gonna keep happening to us. So we'll keep going back and forth with these raids. It'll be fantastic. But sincerely, everyone, thank y'all for coming out today for both of the matches we had today for South America and North America. I wish I could tell you when our next match is going to be. Unfortunately, I'm out of town for the next few days starting tomorrow. Dex may or may not have his own indulgence of his own stream. You know, I'm not going to speak for him. He might try, he might not. You can check social media, you'll know. But one thing we do know is since it got moved around, we do have a match that we are focusing on over on Sunday, Dex, which got moved, but we're still very excited to do it.
Yeah, I don't remember. I know Dreamland's in it. I don't remember the other team.
It's Uni is who it is.
Oh yeah, Uni Academy and Dreamland. That should be a really fun one on Sunday. That was originally the one we had for tonight, but they rescheduled it to Sunday like we said. So, I mean, we have that one locked down for Sunday. So that one's going to be a fun one. Make sure you follow Hunter so you guys know when we go live with that one here again. But Hunter, I mean, another Map 5 series here in the NA Masters tier. And like we kind of said last week, after having two of them, this is kind of what you expect from this tier. These are the teams that are playing to get into those promotion and relegation games for OWCS. And right now, a lot of those teams are doing really good. And one of those teams that we have casted in the past, Midori, is one of the only teams that's undefeated at the moment.
Yeah, and obviously you want to try to stay undefeated, give yourself the best position possible to be able to get yourself into those regulation games down the line. Because obviously, if you get that opportunity to go into OWCS and really kind of show your craft, I mean, that's an opportunity that that doesn't go to very many players at the end of the day. So, hey, here's hoping it goes well for the players in this division when that time eventually comes for the playoffs. But at least for tonight, things are settled away. So I want to thank y'all very much for coming out supporting once again. It's been a fantastic time. If you want to stick around, we're going to go ahead and we're going to raid a little something right now. I think we're trying to give it over to William Mundy again, who has been covering a lot of the South American action. They're doing some open division right now for Latin America, so we'll throw it over there, and you guys can enjoy that bit of action. But one more time, thank you all very much for joining us. We appreciate y'all being here. Hopefully you will join us on Sunday. Make sure to keep supporting Overwatch, keep supporting this amazing scene we have before us. So thank y'all one last time. We hope to see you Sunday, and if not, have yourself an amazing week.